In the Fuzzy Memories podcast, we celebrate the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We're three latchkey kids who made it out alive.
And in each episode, we break down all the culture that popped, 1 year at a time.
Whether it's the birth of legends...
I'm Lyme disease free today, and I have Whitney Houston and MTV to thank. Or audacious moves.
Imagine also the poor Golden Gate Bridge. You turn 75 and people have a party on you.
Yep. I don't want that.
Or even confusing PSAs.
And the stop, drop, and roll. I mean, I assumed as an adult I would catch on fire weekly.
All the time!
We've got a take that will make you laugh.
We've also got thoughts on all sorts of random phenomena and the most unmitigated of gall.
Why sharks can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and rivers can't be trusted. It's collusion.
Of the highest degree.
Uh-huh.
You were counseling me to start my remarks with, first of all, bitch.
Everyone in that room would have snapped to attention.
It's going to be basically coffee lids, shark revenge, and then maybe like Matt Getz. God, we need to do something about him.
Join us every other Wednesday to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the weirdest decades.
If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills,
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
Listen and subscribe to Fuzzy Memories on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform.
Welcome to Broads and Books, the podcast with one unique theme, 4 handpicked book recommendations, and 2 broads. I'm Amy.
And I'm Erin, and this is episode number 5. It's a Small World.
It's a small world, Erin.
We want to sing the song so
Me
bad.
too. However, we may have to pay for that.
We would have to pay
So don't
for
do
it.
that.
We're not going to.
Okay, great.
You can all picture it.
Yeah.
Or
go
listen to
online.
it, I guess.
Listen
It wouldn't be
online.
picturing
Sing it
it.
in your own head.
Yeah,
You know
do
you
it
have
now.
it in your head.
Yes, for
We'll give you
sure.
a pause.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
that's enough. Yeah.
So tempting.
So good. All right, so we are back at it, and it took Erin and I, a couple of days to recover after that Ride or Die episode. A lot of good things happened. A lot
So
of
many
weird
good
things
things.
happened. But we are here. We are ready. We are excited.
We are. Our theme this week relates to weird character connections that you didn't see coming. A twist, a surprise, etc. that relates to someone or something being related to a character. Which made me think of my own life of times that this has happened.
Uh-huh.
Like a weird connection
yeah.
or a small world
Oh, a
moment.
small world.
It's a small world
world.
moment.
Yeah.
And then I decided that I immediately wanted to know yours.
Of course. I think I was really racking my brain for this. I think one of the weirdest things, so I've had the good fortune to travel a little bit outside of
Yes.
the U.S., and I found that in countries where English is not the first language, when you meet someone that is speaking English, you're like, that's my best friend in the entire world. We get each other instantly. And if that person happens to be wearing an Iowa sweatshirt or an Iowa T-shirt, which is
yeah.
where both Erin and I are located, then it's like, oh my God, we're soulmates. We have been destined to meet. And here's that moment in which we meet, and all is well.
And under normal circumstances, you'd probably have nothing to do with
No,
each other.
I would not even make eye contact
Right.
with another person. But somehow in that situation, I am the most gregarious, open, loving person. And I want to share that with everyone.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's a great small world moment.
What about you, Erin?
I have a lot. Well, kind of a small one is that I seem to have a face that people always think I'm somebody else. So I deal a lot with do I know you? And then the disappointment when they realize that they don't.
Who do they think you are?
No one famous.
Okay.
Just I feel like I know you from somewhere. And I'm like, we don't though. And then there's that awkward, where do we go from here? The answer's nowhere.
Nowhere.
So
We end this at this moment.
Right. Partially because of that, I'm also one of those people that, if you're in a crowd of people and you have to get on a plane or something, you're like, I know I'm going to end up sitting next to that person.
God.
That happened to Mike and I on a trip to Hawaii pretty badly.
Oh, no.
Yeah. We were signed up for a dinner cruise, which Mike wasn't thrilled about to begin with.
I was going to say, why would either you or Mike do this to yourselves?
I know. I don't know what I was thinking. I had
Okay.
a different picture of what it was going to be, to be
Okay.
fair. I probably didn't read the description enough.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But we were waiting to board, and there was this couple that was standing there, and she had on like the heels that have lights in them, you know, that are like clear. You know, I want to say stripper heels because that's going to bring to yeah, like lighted. Like I'm talking about like neon. Yeah.
Where else in the world would you use those except a
On
dinner
a dinner
cruise
cruise
and
in
a strip club?
Yeah, exactly.
So you saw this woman with the
did.
lighted heels.
Yeah, we saw her and her husband, and I was jokingly, because at this point we had realized that they were pairing, like you were sitting at tables of 4. Previously, we thought we were at our own table. So as we're realizing this, I laughingly said to Mike, haha, we're going to end up at that table.
Oh, Erin, it's all your fault. You caused that to happen.
And we did. And it was something, let me tell you. It is a memory that Mike and I still laugh about. It ended with her putting cans of pop down her dress to steal at the end of the night. And between us getting on the boat and that, I can tell you that there are a multitude of things that I still have not entirely dealt with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember her name?
Oh, gosh.
Because I want to
Something with
give her a
D.
name.
Like Donna, maybe, I want to say.
I was going to
Yeah.
say more like Diamond
Oh,
or, you know.
Yeah, no, it wasn't obvious.
Desiree.
Yeah, I wanted it to be obvious, but it wasn't. She also had Kleenex stuck all over her face.
Was she shaving?
Well, I think what happened was like she was sweaty, but she also had a lot of makeup on, so she was dabbing, but she was using an actual Kleenex, so it was leaving the marks. And her husband could clearly see that, but never said anything.
He was having his own private joke moment.
So then, you know, Mike and I are like, well, if her husband's not going to say anything, I'm
We're
going to feel
sure as
real-
hell not going to.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was something. I mean,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Hit me up sometime on social media if you want to hear the whole story. It was something. So yeah, those kind of moments.
All right, good. Yeah. Well, you know, when I was thinking about this theme, I had a question that I wanted to ask you too. Is there someone that you wish you had a weird character connection with? A small world moment, either fictional or otherwise?
Yes.
Oh.
I wish that I had some sort of connection to Keith Morrison.
Of Dateline, Keith
Of
Morrison?
Dateline.
Oh, boy.
Obsessed with that
Why?
guy.
What is it about him?
I don't even know, except that I just think he's a little bit rogue and I like it. Like, he is just, when a Dateline comes on and it's him, Mike and I are like, yes, it's Keith Morrison. Like, we're so happy because it's like he's overacting, but he's not acting. He's just interviewing someone. So it's simultaneously a little bit cringy, but also very entertaining.
Wow.
And it just never ends. The things he says, ridiculous. And everybody acts like it's normal, but it's great. It's the best move Dateline could have made. They should never get rid of him.
You know, I'm glad you
Bonus.
explained this because, yeah, I've seen a few people like on the social webs that are equally obsessed with him. And I was like, I don't get it. I don't watch Dateline. I don't understand it. I know Kristen Bell is all over him to a hilarious extent.
He's amazing. I can't even handle it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And they always do like pan down shots of him. He has like all business on the top, like a sweater and a button up. And then they'll always pan down and he has on like Converse tennis shoes or like something. You're like, what are you doing, Keith?
He's a hip one.
He is. That's what he wants you to think, I think. Yeah. But it's like he's trying too hard, but he's also pulling it off. It's such a weird combo of riding the fence. I don't even know how to explain it.
It's magic.
That is what it is. It's magic.
Okay.
It's Keith Morrison magic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mine isn't as exciting. You know, at first I was thinking like I was going through some of my favorite books and I realized most of my favorite books are kind of dark. I don't want to be involved at all.
Oh,
in
sure,
those
sure.
people's
Yeah.
lives or plots or anything.
Right.
So then I occasionally rewatch sitcoms just to relax.
Yeah.
I've been into New Girl a lot lately. I wouldn't mind being the fifth member of their loft. You know, wait, fifth? Yes, fifth member of
That's
their line.
great. Good idea.
Yeah. I mean, I'll also admit I kind of have a crush on one of the guys in the show.
Oh, well,
so, you know,
it's a
things
byproduct.
could develop. That stuff drives ratings. I'd be all over it.
Yeah. You could write it right in.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think
like,
it's
guess what?
gold.
Nick falls in love with me.
Yeah. Primetime Emmy.
I should also admit I have no acting ability whatsoever. Do you think that will stop me?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
Yeah.
No. Blind ambition.
Great.
Just go for it. And as we established, we're ride or die. So if you want to, I'm all in.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to hold you back.
I don't even know why I asked you that, Erin. Of
I'm not
course you
going
were
to set
gonna
up
say-
any obstacles
Yeah.
to your dreams.
Lord.
Well, on that
note,
I think we're ready. For
I think we're
some
ready.
Book picks.
Yeah.
For It's a Small World.
Yeah.
So, what's your first fiction pick there?
My first fiction pick, which is sort of a tongue twister now that I
It
just said
is,
that. Yeah.
right? Okay.
First fiction is A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan, published in 2010. Have you read this?
I have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Terrific.
Yes. Okay. Well, then you can chime in and make sure that you agree with
Okay.
everything I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So, you know, this book won the Pulitzer, all the awards. I think it's for a very good reason. The book starts with Sasha, who is a klepto in New York. She's working in the music business. And so we get a chapter like from her perspective. Then it switches to Benny Salazar's perspective, who is Sasha's boss. So we hear a little bit about Benny. Then there's the next chapter is someone connected to him. And then from then it's someone else connected to them.
Oh, cool.
So it builds this sort of web of connections. And it goes back and forth in time into the minds of this whole series of characters. And to tell more about who all of those characters would kind of ruin the discovery, which is
Right,
part of the
right.
fun, you know? Like each chapter, you're kind of like, oh, who's this going to be? How are they going to be connected? How have I met this person in the past in reading it? And if you pay attention, you spot all sorts of recurring things happening. And what's kind of fun is it's just us as readers, though, that have this secret, that realize that everyone's connecting. No one in the book understands that they've all intersected in the past or the present or whatever. So we're sort of gods in this world, you know? Powerless gods, I should be clear.
All right. I got a little excited about power
I know.
for
I'm
a
sorry.
second. Yeah.
We, as you do.
I do. Get a little drunk with power.
I mean, we have no ability to affect, you know, these lives, but we do know something everyone else doesn't, which is kind of a fun reading experience, you know?
Yeah.
The book is about music. It's about sex. It's about love, but it's also about time and how time sort of moves us along, how it keeps us in place. And in fact, one of the characters names Time the Goon Squad, hence the title. He says, time's a goon, right? You gonna let that goon push you around? And everyone in the book kind of gets pushed around by time and by circumstance. So like I mentioned, one of the joys of reading it is finding out the connections, finding out the web, but also is the style, because every different character has sort of a different approach to it. So Jennifer Egan puts some of them in first person, puts some of them in third person, puts a whole chapter of PowerPoint slides with like Venn diagrams and shit. And this girl from the future is sort of narrating her family history with this PowerPoint. It's brilliant. So it's a quick read. It's a lingering read. You know, I read this once, maybe over a series of a couple weeks. Then I think last year I reread it over like a couple days, and it was so much better the second time around.
Oh, interesting.
Because
Okay.
I felt like much more immersed in that world. I remembered everyone, you know, I was like
sure.
sort of mapping it out.
Yeah.
So that'd be my recommendation if you go for it. But either way, it's an excellent process of reading.
Oh,
What do you
I like
think?
that.
Did you like it as well?
I did, yeah, exactly for that too. Of all the different, I kind of get into books like that have all the different characters, you know, that you're moving between chapters. Love that. I'm also a sucker for differences in structure. So the PowerPoint, you know, putting some of those
Yes,
quirky things
love
in
it.
there. Yeah, you've got me. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, second that recommendation.
Excellent. Ride or die, even though this isn't the theme. We're saying it again. Ride or die.
In a small world. So good at this.
So freaking good.
So good. Well, mine's a little bit different. It is a book called Anatomy of a Scandal by Sarah Vaughan.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
And this is actually the third book by this author, but it's the first one that I've read. And it's her first book in this kind of vein, which I'll explain in a minute. But this book is it's a part courtroom drama, part like a very intimate portrait of a marriage and part kind of psychological thriller. So I think, similar to yours, one of the best things about this book is that it's told from a bunch of different viewpoints. But ultimately, the two that stick out the most that you would kind of consider the main characters are Sophie and Kate. The book is set in Britain, and when it comes out, you find out Sophie's married to James, who's a high-level political figure there, and has had a really great career so far. They have 2 kids, all that good stuff. But you find out that there's a scandal that has come out involving him that's basically threatening his entire political career and their marriage and family. At the same time, we meet Kate, who's a lawyer, but in Britain that's known as a barrister, which is the highest level at that point. So it's almost like being, the top lawyer of a firm. Okay. I mean, she's not just a lawyer. Yeah, she's a big deal. And she is the one that's being tasked with dealing with this political scandal and ultimately bringing charges against James. Okay. So she's going to prosecute him. So the book follows each of their lives, kind of going back and forth from present day to their times in college. It's a great way, you learn a lot about both of them and how their characters developed. And they even add in other viewpoints like Kate's best friend. There's some from James's viewpoint. But ultimately what is happening in this book is there's a dichotomy of Kate, the barrister, believes 100% that James is guilty, that she's got the evidence to prove it, and Sophie 100% believes her husband is innocent. So you're following this trajectory and how much this central scandal has sort of rippled through their lives. And I won't tell you any more after that, just because it's such a great read and it would give some things away. But you start to realize how everyone's interconnected, and all these things are overlapping. And towards the end, probably the second half of the book, each chapter, you're like, oh, what? I mean, it's one of those where, don't read it like right before bed, because you're just going to keep going until you finish, because you have to know what is happening. So, it's compelling. It's a mystery. But what I really liked about it was the way that she really got into the viewpoints of a public scandal. Not just from, what a legal perspective or what we see in society, but also from the people living it, what that does to them, the doubt that crept in, all of those types of things. And it's done particularly well because Sarah Vaughan was a writer for The Guardian for a really long time. She was a political commentator for them. So she's got kind of that inside knowledge. Oh. And she left to start writing novels, which her first 2, as I understand, are basically not in this vein at all. And then this one hit and everybody was like, this is amazing, because she's got a lot of insight and insight into that world to bring it.
That.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my understanding is now she's writing a second one, not about these characters, but in that same kind of vein with the courtroom drama and the scandal and all that. So if that's true, I bet it appears on Broads and Books in the future, because
I was just going to ask, were you going to read it? And answered that question.
Yeah. So it's a great read. It was a quick read. Okay. Loved the way the characters all connected and how you kind of figure that out as you go. The mystery element of it was great, but also just from a human aspect and a marriage aspect and a how we treat people aspect. Yeah. So
I like that idea too of 2 characters being so completely opposite in their beliefs. So it's like you have to hold those 2 things in your head at the same time, like those 2 possibilities. That's crazy. And
she does a great job of kind of leading you down the path where you would 100% believe why each of them thinks the way that they do. Yeah.
I bet the good lawyers have to do that, have to hold both of those beliefs in their head.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay.
So,
well, now we've done fiction.
On to nonfiction.
Let's move on to other genres. And so my next pick is also fiction, but it's a story collection.
Oh, perfect.
And I picked Sour Heart by Jenny Zhang, published in 2017. And what's interesting is, Goon Squad could be kind of considered an interconnected story collection, right? Like it's all these sort of discrete stories that have connections. But to me, it felt like it was a novel because the overall story was the connection.
Right.
Whereas each story is much more complete and independent, but it does have a connection that I'll get into here in a minute. So there's 7 stories here. They're all about Chinese American girls growing up the children of immigrants in New York City in the 1990s. And the stories are about the immigrant experience, right? And growing up with all the pressure and confusion of that experience, but also about growing up girls and just how freaking hard that can be, especially when you're not quite sure who you are at this point. Also about growing up in poverty. The first story, for example, is about a family that wakes up every morning covered in roaches.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Didn't see that coming.
Sorry,
Gut
Erin.
punch. That is horrifying.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
But wait, it gets worse.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So they have to, flick off all the roaches. Then they have to try to navigate the choice between using the shared bathroom in this apartment that they're squatting in or taking their luck in their hands and going across the street to the bodega and using the restroom there. It's a real catch-22, I guess. Yeah.
Oh.
So some desperate poverty, some real just crushing pressure, and this girl that's in the middle of that, right? She's not sure who she is, where she fits. There's another story that's about fourth grade girls who experiment on each other, and it kind of escalates to some really icky sexual stuff.
Oh.
And it kind of just shows trying to fit in at a terrible cost, I'm really emphasizing the gross and terrible aspects of this book.
Sounds great.
Yeah. I realize this may have been a bad strategy to try and sell this book.
Well, you know what? Sometimes you need some realism.
That's
and
true.
Not everyone's life is, as easy and wonderful as we would like to believe it is.
That is a fact, Erin. And let me also tell you more about why I recommend this.
Please do.
Despite the roaches and the risks of the bodega restroom.
Right.
The connections between these stories, they're kind of subtle. And at first I didn't notice them, but they revolve in part around this one apartment in Washington Heights, like where these families are squatting when they first come over from China.
Okay.
And so some of these people are sort of passing each other in their first, year or so of being
that's
in
a cool
America.
idea.
Yeah. And all the parents are sort of scrounging and they're desperately hanging on, both to money, to why they came here, to their families, to their heritage. And then this place is full. This is like the epicenter of all of this, stuff. And why this is worth it in my mind, the writing style is so freaking good. Like she is just, it's beautiful, but it's also super gross and sort of tactile in a way that's very, very real. And it's kind of fitting as like the voice of these young girls. And in fact, I read an interview with her in The Guardian where she talks about why she writes about teenage girls. And she says, the young girl has always been the most reviled and fetishized creature. We love her and hate her, which I thought was really interesting and kind of gives an overview of these stories, like why she's diving into this, like what is so important about that part of growing up. Especially when your parents have made this huge decision to come over here. Jenny Zhang's a poet, too. That's actually how I came to first know her. Her poetry is really kind of gross and tactile in a lot of interesting ways. I would recommend looking up a poem called Seppuku. She performs it, I think, for Nylon magazine. And it's her in this sort of like cutesy outfit, in this cutesy high voice. And she's talking about how she's going to commit seppuku to herself because she didn't get the cereal that she wanted in the morning. Real interesting stuff. Highly, highly recommend.
All right. Wow.
Despite the roaches and the filth.
I think I can get past it.
Yeah. See, now going in, so you can prepare yourself.
I can prepare myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So none of your readers can say, why the hell did you recommend that? There were roaches.
Right. It was clear.
It was clear.
It was clearly that there was roaches. So don't.
And besides, who hasn't had a period where, you live somewhere with some bugs?
Yeah. College jumps right to my mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I lived in a dorm right above the cafeteria.
Oh.
There were roaches, Erin.
That's a bad placement.
It was real bad.
That's awful. I'm so
Right?
sorry.
Second floor Burge. Come on. Right above the cafeteria.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a dark time.
Yeah. I can imagine. That's rough. That is not good.
Literally because they were dark and they covered the walls.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't stop.
No, they don't. Mm-mm. They reproduce a lot.
They are no joke. They are a hardy bug. That's all my knowledge of roaches. I just gave it to you.
They are hardy and gross.
They don't stop.
They don't. They're like the Terminator.
Yeah,
They don't stop. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about? You just had a look on your face like, oh, God, it's another movie. I don't know what she's
No, I do know the Terminator.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I do know the Terminator. You know why it was on my face? Because for whatever reason, I don't even know what song it is, but there's that song where it, like, won't stop till 6 a.m. That song, I'm purposely not singing it correctly because we can't afford it.
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure it was popular.
Sure.
But that's why
Yeah.
you had a blank, because that was playing in my head. And I was like,
Because of
why?
the roaches?
Yeah, like they don't stop till 6 a.m.
Your mind is a real interesting place.
It's troubled.
It's a place that suddenly randomly brought out the Tootsie Roll Pop
Owl
thing. Yeah, the owl.
And
Yeah.
the song.
And the song.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You never know what's going to happen. It's part of the fun. All right. So I know this is going to shock you, that my my nonfiction book pick this week is a crime, true crime.
This is shocking information.
I know. Didn't see that coming, did
Nope.
you? It is called I'll Be Gone in the Dark, One Woman's Obsessive Search for the Golden State Killer by Michelle McNamara. Yes. So this book, it's very possible you've heard of this book because it was really out there everywhere after it came out, particularly because shortly after it was published, the Golden State Killer was actually caught. But the story itself it's just a variety of things. It's nonfiction, it's true crime, it's a journal, it's a memoir, it's a series of essays. It's everything. Michelle McNamara, it was the author of the story, and she, at some point along the way, had picked up this tidbit about the Golden State Killer. And she reveals in the book how she actually has a connection, why she decided that this was so important to her. So that's kind of where the small world thing comes in here. But she reveals why she has this connection in this way. It's just so genius. I haven't seen it ever done like this, and it's done so perfectly well. She interweaves this whole memoir of her life in with the true crime. So you're kind of going chapter to chapter, like you're learning about her and her growing up, and then you go back to this, the next victim of the Golden State Killer, and then you come back, and that sounds weird or almost like you couldn't make that work, and it works seamlessly. Wow. I mean, you don't even feel like you're going between this, horrific crime story and her life, but it's perfect to explain why she really developed this obsession with catching him. And she is actually credited with a lot of the reason that he was caught. She unfortunately died prior to the manuscript being completely finished, and obviously prior to being published. She was married to Patton Oswalt from King of Queens, some other shows. He's the voice of the narrator in The Goldbergs, if you watch that sitcom. And he and her assistant took her notes and finished it and published the book because it was that close. But you get a really big sense of how important she was to the investigators. I mean, we're talking about detectives that worked on this their whole career. I mean, it was like their, red herring. Like, I cannot figure this out. And so it partially broke thanks to DNA genealogy websites. So he's now, if you read it, you would know the ending in that sense. When she wrote the book and when Patton Oswalt finished it, that wasn't known who he was. She had a very particular idea. But the end of the book, she writes an open letter to the Golden State Killer.
I've heard about this. It's chilling, right?
It is. And it is one of the most well-written things I've every time I see a piece of news about him, like when he was caught or even now, they'll update something about his legal status, I get goosebumps because I think of that letter. And when you read the letter and you compare how it went down, how he was arrested, everything, it's so chillingly close. It's almost creepy, but it's beautiful at the same time. So she really dedicated this whole life to this search. And so this reads very much like a true crime, but if that's not your flavor, you would really like the rest of it just for the story of her and how she came to be connected and why it was important to her. She does such a great job of humanizing all of the people that spent so much time, the victims' families, the police officers, everyone that had a part in this. She does a great job. It's just, it's too bad that she passed because I imagine she could have written some other really beautiful works. So
was she a crime reporter before, or did she have a writing background in this?
She did have a writing background, but I don't, particularly off the top of my head, remember exactly what it was. I don't know that she was. I think she liked true crime, but that wasn't like a focus by any means until she which she reveals in the book, the kind of the connection. But yeah, I love it for that. I think it's great for this theme because of the connection that you find in there, you know, kind of the weird, how everything relates, but it's just it's a good read no matter what.
And such a good ending. I saw an interview with Patton Oswalt and Seth Meyers on the day that the arrest went down, and he was just sort of hyped up and just, you know, out of sorts, but so excited. I mean, that had to be the dream for both of them.
Yes. Yeah. It really, I think, particularly to help feel like it culminated in something, especially after losing her, you know, to feel like, okay, you did something huge here. I mean, really, they are very vocal about the fact that a lot of the really investigative work and the doggedness and like keeping after it was really spurred by her. So yeah, it's a great, great book, worth all of the accolades it's gotten. 100%.
And great, it was just last year that it came out?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. March of last year, March 2018, I think. Wow. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, very good.
Whew. I don't know how to quite follow that, but, you know, now it's time to switch over away from books.
Away from books.
Into
other favorites.
Other favorites, because we're so multicultured and, that's not the right word.
Multifaceted.
Multifaceted. Thank you.
Yeah. Layered, if you will.
Layered. So for our pop culture picks, I chose a movie this time called Cloud Atlas, made in 2012. At first, this is based on an excellent book. One that I had actually considered using for my fiction pick. It's by David Mitchell, and the book itself features 6 characters that are spanning centuries of time. And they're all connected loosely by like a weird birthmark and also some other things. But the movie, it just made some brilliant choices in adapting this and then saying, hey, I see those connections and I'm going to raise you a bunch more connections, because here's what we're going to do. We're going to take these amazing actors, Tom Hanks, Halle Berry, Jim Broadbent, Hugh Grant. We're going to make them play the same character, play different characters in each time so that you see the people, you understand this is all sort of connected, but yet they're playing different people, different genders, it's insane. And because of that choice of casting those same 6 people in all these different times and places, you start seeing connections that were much more than they were in the book. And they may or may not be there. And you see some of the similarities in their stories. You see how they're all sort of driven in some way by freedom, by self-expression. And I came into the movie knowing the book, which may have put me at sort of an advantage, but not totally, because it's so different in a way. I did read this great review of the film by Roger Ebert, where he's sort of trying to describe it, and he's coming up at a loss. He's just like, I don't even know what I just saw, really, but I loved it. And at one point, he just sort of gives up, and he's like, I don't know what I saw, but, quote, I was never, ever bored by Cloud Atlas. On my second viewing, I gave up any attempt to work out the logical connections between the segments, stories, and characters. What was important was that I set my mind free to play. Ooh. Great, writing by Roger Ebert, but also I feel like that was just the perfect way to encapsulate this movie. You just see, like I said, all these different connections, all these different things about humanity that, just come to you by watching this. You see these connecting elements, and then you just go from there, and you kind of take your own interpretation of the movie and go with it. It's wonderful. It also has a stirring soundtrack. And by that, I mean, so sometimes, like, when I'm writing, I like that it needs an explanation. Really not that crazy. But when I'm writing, I sometimes like to listen to film scores.
Okay.
Like Cloud Atlas is a great one. Some really wonderful, beautiful, kind of dark instrumental stuff. I love every film score that Trent Reznor has done because I love Nine Inch Nails. But they've done like Gone and Girl, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network. And that kind of music, it's like the words don't get in the way. But it's like sort of driving and dark and propulsive. It's wonderful. So yes, it also has stirring film score.
I like it.
Yeah. And what did you think I was going to say, Erin? Did you think I was going to say some polka or some... I
don't know. When you said stirring and then you went an explanation, I thought you meant it to be like you thought you were sounding positive and it was actually a negative or something.
Well, that's valid. That could be
I was like,
something I would say.
Yeah. No. Other than that, no. I was along for the ride.
Acid rock.
Yes.
80s hair metal.
I mean, it doesn't have roaches, so I mean,
No,
Wait.
not that I know
Oh,
of.
no.
Yeah.
Unless it has Papa Roach on the soundtrack.
Papa Roach. Haven't heard of him in a long time.
I couldn't name a song if you made me
my
right now.
God.
I don't know. I don't even know where that
I think
came
I
from.
have it, but again, don't want to.
No,
We don't have to want to pay
Sorry,
Papa,
Papa
Roach. I mean, of
You're
all
already getting too much of a
songs,
shout out.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is the last thing we want to pay for.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Also, did you ever think about that name again? Or you just went with it?
Where did that come from, really? Did you also have a dorm that was above a cafeteria?
I hope so.
And
that's the only thing that makes sense.
Decided that you were the papa of all these roaches.
You created a little family in your dorm? It's the only logical explanation.
Only one.
Yeah.
I just like to imagine when you're trying to get signed as an artist and you keep going to these meetings and
Yeah.
okay, so you're set with the band name. That's
you're gonna
not
go with
negotiable.
Papa
then.
Roach? Oh, okay.
All right.
All right.
We're gonna pass. Touching story with your family of roaches, but we're out.
We can't sell this. We really can't.
No, we've tried
If
to
it was
think
a
of every
family of-
angle.
If it was Papa Puppy, maybe.
Done.
Everyone loves puppies. No
Everyone
one loves
does.
roaches.
No, and you hoarding them like a family.
Yeah.
It's real questionable.
Bad life choice.
Bad. Yeah.
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 Sorry, Papa Roach. We'll pass.
Yeah. Hard pass. Yes.
Now I'm going to have to go listen to Papa Roach after
Right
this.
now I was like,
I
oh,
don't remember.
what? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know if I want to remember.
Last
necessarily.
resort? Does that sound right?
Sure.
Sure.
I mean, if your
Why
name's
are we
Papa
still talking
Roach,
about
you
this?
are at a
Yeah.
last resort,
Yeah,
are
you
you?
really
Yeah,
are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That was a deep dive into Papa Roach.
Sure was.
You're welcome, listeners. All right. Well, I'll try to get us out
There
of
you
this
go.
one.
Yeah, please do.
All right. So my non-book cultural pick is I did my own kind of It's a Small World connection, which is partially why I picked this because I love it and it was perfect. So I picked the NBC comedy called AP Bio, which stars Patton Oswalt
Oh, my God.
as the principal. So see that small world connection right there?
Too
coming together.
freaking clever for your own good.
I know, right?
Is that what Mike says? You're too freaking clever for your own good.
Never. I don't think he's ever
Oh,
said that.
dear.
Huh.
That's
Yeah, no, I can't think of one time. In his head, probably a lot. Yeah.
maybe not in a positive way.
Yeah, I don't
either.
know. Yeah, that's his own thing to work out.
Sure.
All right. Well, anyway, so this is I love this series. It started last year, so season 1's out, so go binge it now.
Okay.
So you're welcome. You can watch all of it at once. Fantastic. It's a half-hour comedy, and so the whole premise is that this Harvard philosophy professor, Jack Griffin, fails to get his dream job at Harvard. He's up for a dream job, doesn't get it. His quote-unquote nemesis, who doesn't realize he's his nemesis, but he just hates him secretly, gets to the job. So he has no option. So he moves back home to Ohio, where he's from, and applies to get a job as a high school advanced placement biology teacher. Kicker being that he has no teaching experience or real interest, but Patton Oswalt, who's the principal, thinks it's so amazing that a Harvard professor would want to teach and thinks it's going to look so good for the school. He ignores all the red flags and says, come on in. Yeah. So
This is going to end badly.
yeah, it is. It is. It does quite often. But the show is stacked. You've got Patton Oswalt as the principal. Jack Griffin is played by Glenn Howerton, who's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's got some character spots on The Mindy Project. Hilarious. And it's created by and written by with the Saturday Night Live alums, Seth Meyers.
Oh.
And Mike O'Brien.
love
So
Seth Meyers.
it's just amazing because basically the whole premise of the show takes place in this AP Bio classroom that he's in charge of these students who are very good and want to learn because they're all college bound and but he has no interest in teaching them and instead decides that he's going to use them all to get back at his nemesis. Like, they're all smart, so we could come up with this great plan to take down his nemesis. And the one-liners in this show, I mean, I have to pause it because I'm laughing so hard. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And there's a bunch of side characters, other teachers there that are great. The custodian's great. I mean, top to bottom, all of the students in the classroom, I was trying to come up with which one was my favorite, and I couldn't because they all just play such a perfect role and are hilarious. It's definitely worth it. The second season is coming out or is out, and you should catch up on the first season.
I saw an ad for it. Who plays the nemesis? Do we know?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not anyone that I recognize. Yeah. Oh, he's like a real happy guy, though. Like, there's no part of him that is upset with Jack Griffin, but Jack is just sure that. The other thing is that Jack, when he comes home, he moves into, his mom has recently died, and he moves into her home, which was outfitted like for elderly ladies. So he's like riding the chair up the stairs. Like, he answers the door one time in like a really short pink robe because there's nothing else in the house. Like, yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So we're just seeing sort of this guy just dissolve before our very eyes. Yeah.
And you want to hate him because there's a lot to hate, but you also, there are moments where he's, redeems himself. And in between, it's just too funny to not love every second. So, yeah, highly recommend.
All right. I'm going to start watching that. I saw an ad for it. Wonderful.
Yes.
Wow. We got some good picks. It is a small world, Erin. I think we've shown that here today. Mm-hmm. No one's ever shown that before. We were the first to show that connections exist in this crazy world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Never heard that phrase before.
Never heard that before. So that's a wrap for our episode today. You can look forward to another great episode dropping next Wednesday and every Wednesday on whatever platform you use to listen to this podcast and all your other podcasts, but this is definitely your favorite podcast.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So, and in the meantime, you can head to our website, broadsandbooks.com, to check out all the recommendations we made in this episode, as well as one bonus pick. Mm-hmm. So each episode, we'll pick one extra pick that's only on our website, and that rotates between Amy and I. So go. Get your extra pick.
Yeah, we even tell you a little bit about it. I mean, we are full service.
Absolutely.
On our website.
If the things that we didn't share here, if you already know them all, congratulations.
There's more.
There's more. And if you don't, then extra.
Exactly. Yeah. Remember, add it to that reading list, that unachievable reading list. And surprise, there is actually some bonus material on our website as well. And we won't spoil it, but seriously, you should look. Because, if you like what you hear so far, and of course you do, you're going to like it.
Yeah, you're going to like the extras. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. You can also check out our Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram to give us feedback and let us know items you might want to hear us talk about in future episodes if you have an idea for a theme or, something else that you have desire to hear, questions or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yes. And in fact, if you are creative enough to have an idea for a theme, let us know. Find links to all of our social media accounts and our email at broadsandbooks.com.
Perfect. And if you like what you hear and you want to shout it from the streets,
keep doing it.
You should do that.
Come on.
Do it.
We want to hear the stories about people shouting this from the streets and then getting arrested for public intox.
I guess if you're drunk. Yeah.
I'm assuming that's what they're just going to assume because the people are so excited. Like,
why? Oh, I see where you went with that. Yeah. I thought at first you were saying that they would have to be drunk to shout from the streets how amazing we are. And I was going to argue.
That it's just going to be as fun as if they were drunk. They're drunk on us.
Drunk on Broads and Books.
That's right.
Yes, absolutely. So after you shouted in the streets.
And get arrested.
And get arrested.
And get bailed out.
As much good as that's going to do us, it's going to do us even more good.
Really, it is.
Go and write it.
Right, because you don't get arrested that way.
No. Stars, rate them, write it. That's the way other people find us. That keeps us up in the ratings on the podcast.
It does.
So that we can, get more listeners.
Yeah, so be a pal. Help us out with that.
Yeah, it's not too much to ask.
We are excited to hear from you and excited to be back every week. Until next time, that's it for us.
Happy reading.
I'm up again. Same night, another dream. Before trying this recording thing, I didn't remember much of anything of these dreams. I didn't remember much from any of the women. And one night of doing this, and it's broken things open. The dreams they're in me, and they're coming out of me, and
Talk to me. I am not broken. I am the most whole, most real.
Cause their despair. I wait for the word.
Witch. Look at the mad woman in her cage. She was a woman with holes inside her. That was the heaviest factor, the final evidence, the heart of the issue.
Somehow, you understand this. You hear me. Wherever you are, whatever this is, you...
this isn't a dream journal anymore. It's not. It's just fact. Because now this is some sort of record. What are these dreams? Maybe there's a better question. Who are these women? Weird Woman is a Broads and Books production. All 9 episodes are available January 10th. Listen and subscribe to Weird Woman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. That's WYRD Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts.